Hi, I'm Kevin Peters. Today with me I have Nathan Hill, who you just heard from at our introduction. I asked Nathan to help me co-present this webinar today because I'm pretty excited about some of the things we're going to be unveiling. But Nathan, how much would you say you know about this webinar?
I know basically zero, enough to write the landing page copy, and that's about it, which is terrifying for me.
Yeah. So what would you say this webinar is about? Let's start there.
I can recite all their marketing copy. Proven strategies and the tools to implement those strategies.
It's pretty close.
To grow online fundraising revenue.
It's pretty close. Did you know that today is also the day we're unveiling our next ebook that NextAfter has produced called The Great Dress Code Debate?
Okay.
Bet you did not, yes. So just for those out there, I thought it would be more fun if I didn't tell Nathan what this webinar was about and instead had him help co-present it, and he can learn some of the ways that you probably didn't realize NextAfter has been promoting this ebook over the last couple weeks. So,
okay. All right. This is all news to me. This is great.
This is going to be good. So the premise on this, we're going to show you guys how today we made an ebook in under an hour for less than, my goal was $50, but the fees always get you. It ended up being slightly less than $60 through the process. And also just as a note for everybody, you may hear it, I got a little head cold, and so I apologize for you for having to stand next to me while I have this, but B, I'm going to try not to cough into my microphone, so apologize if it does happen. So let's start off. The goal in this is, it arose back at our December webinar. And in our December webinar, we noticed, and we were looking at comments, a lot of the questions we were being asked were not like, give us some details on such and such test. It was, how did you do X? How did you launch that ebook? Or how did you get that landing page made?
Right.
And so I even pitched it to Nathan and Brady back then. I said, why don't we do something a little more tactical? We'll introduce some theories. We go through this, some just basic experiments we've done that led us to do these different things. But I want to drill down into things like, we'll show you how to actually get to what your most popular resources are in Google Analytics. We're going to look at how to lay out a landing page, how to launch an ad on your homepage without your marketing director realizing it, and how to do other different... That's been going for a while, man.
To be fair, I was like completely clueless. I was intentionally clueless.
Yeah,
I saw a couple things along the way.
Okay, I don't think you saw it all.
For the fun of it.
Yeah.
Pretend I knew that.
Pretend. So, and here's the thing with all of this. I made this promise back in December. I said, we'll do this. And then last week I was about to start it. And this was my calendar last week. For those of you that don't understand, or can't, some of the things in here, we actually were up in Edmonton, and literally one of the top 5 coldest places on the planet, with negative 40 degrees at that point in time. And I realized when I did that, I actually did not have a single time that I was going to be able to make this webinar. So I regretted saying I would do it, but we're troopers. But I get that because you as fundraisers have the same basic concept. Time is limited, but we have to still be able to produce results that we're looking for.
Yeah.
So I say all this to say I get you. I feel the pain of having limited time, limited resources. So that's what this is about. So we're going to be showing you 6 fundraising hacks that you can use to dramatically increase revenue this year. I think I got her title right.
That's great. Yeah,
good. So we're going to hit on all of these. Some of these are services, and as I was going through this, making this deck, it felt a little bit like I was pitching different sites. I want to go on record as saying there's none of these that pay us to do this. Like literally most of these things we're saying to do because it's a great tool that we found to inexpensively launch these kind of products.
Yeah. I do get, just to put all our cards on the table, I get emails all the time with people wanting us to plug a different tool in a blog post or different things like that, and we always have to say like, no, we don't just share tools just because you want to pay us money to do it. Like if we trust a tool fully that's going to get the job done and deliver results, then we'll recommend it, but that's it. Absolutely.
Absolutely. So before we get into that, I thought it'd be helpful to kind of reacquaint, for those who haven't seen it or it's been a while since they've seen it, our model for acquisition. And the reason I do this is because we took this same model to produce the ebook and content offer that we're offering on this webinar. And the premise is simple. We start with the offer. What's something that we can give to a potential donor that would be of equal or greater value than their email address? Yeah. I say that because everybody's email address has value. I only want to get things that I'm going to want to read. So as a result, what you are offering me needs to be of greater or equal value that I'm willing to give that email address up for it. Once you find that offer though, and we'll look at what a couple different offers are, next thing then is to promote it. This can be on your own website. This can be to your email file. This can be to social media. I think we did all those things for this webinar. Drive them to an email acquisition page, some page that you have the ability to collect their information, followed by, and this is the key, an instant donation page. A page that you can say, thank you, we appreciate your gift, or we appreciate you doing this. Your email is going to be in your inbox with your ebook, with your petition, whatever you've done. But by the way, this is only possible because of generous donors like you, and let them give a gift. Just for context, we didn't include a donation page because it felt a little weird to ask for money. No, so we didn't. But anyway, let's first start off by digging into the offer side of things. What makes an offer? Well, there's a good quote. There's an article written in the Harvard Business Review a couple years back. But I talked about how there's only two ways to make money in business. One is to bundle, the other is to unbundle. The same basic concept applies to nonprofits. Some of the examples they gave, one was the recent MP3, recent quote, last 20 years.
What is that, Kevin?
That's Journey. That is the Journey CD.
What's a CD?
What's a CD, yeah. You youngsters.
Just kidding.
Yes. So this has happened in the music industry where we used to have to buy the entire album in order to hear this one song we want. Now it's been unbundled into individual MP3s. They make more money off of unbundling it because they sell more of them as a result. But that's one way they can take an existing product and make it bigger. Another option is take newspapers. Newspapers, more and more, you used to have to buy the entire paper. You still can, but moving it online, they can sell ads. They can sell, like the New York Times sells individual subscriptions that you can view individual pages. So blog posts, classified ads have unbundled the newspaper to some degree. And it works in reverse. Disney Plus. Disney Plus took individual resources they had that were disparate, bundled them into a single resource, so all you need is one login, and you get all access to all these different ones. It's not the creation of new content, it's the way of marketing and positioning existing content in a way that can feel either more valuable or more consumable, depending on what you're doing. So the same thing can apply to nonprofits. We actually did an analysis, probably about a year and a half back now, that we took a look at the various types of offers that we've been running, different things that we use to acquire email addresses for people. And what we did is we stacked ranked them based upon the amount of time people have to use those offers. So for example, a petition or a statement of belief. I can drive someone to a page which I say, I believe this, I believe this, I believe this to you, and have them sign their name. Takes 10, 20 seconds if they read it. We actually found slowing down the process helps. And then we found that 1.9% of all people that sign that petition will give a gift right away if prompted. However, conversely, if you take something like an ebook I always like to premise this by saying don't think Amazon. Don't think downloading an ebook to your Kindle. It can be a 10-page document. In fact, the dress code guide we're going to look at is 8 pages.
I'm so excited to see what's in that.
It's great. That's like a 10-minute read, but we see it has a 50% increase in their likelihood to give because the perceived value of that content increases significantly. An email series, something they sign up for and get dripped over a series of days, a 5-day period of course or such and such, 3.4, and then online courses. We'll see what those look like. But 8 weeks of consuming that content over and over doubles their likelihood to give because the value that I'm being given is perceived to be higher. Yeah. So my likelihood to give is perceived to be more. So take a couple look at different examples. Let's look at the online courses. This one is a good example. We launched this with Dallas Theological Seminary. Man, this was back 3-4 years ago. In it, this is a concept similar to the unbundling. They have a course. It's a graduate level course of studying the Gospels. And they had also taken some video recordings of Dr. Bailey, who's the head of the seminary, of him actually giving the different explanations. It ended up being like a 1-hour recording of 6 different weeks of content. So we took that, same basic premise of we took essentially 2 days of lectures, broke it up into 6 different lessons with videos that had additional reading, quizzes they could take, and that became an unbundling of a single piece of content they had. Yeah. When we first found it, oddly enough, it was actually on, Apple Music or something like that.
Oh, interesting.
Or Apple Podcasts. Okay. It had gotten less than 50 views. Now they're well over 200,000 and getting people to enroll in the class and start taking them because we made it feel more valuable and more consumable. Or email series, another good example on this one, which actually leads me to my first fundraising hack. Ebooks can be a great, highly perceived value of content, but it's hard to know what you should offer as your ebook. It's hard to know what content to put out there. We did this with one organization, the Missionary Oblates of Mary Immaculate. Great organization. They have a lot of different types of content out on their site. And we're doing what we call our roadmap process, in which we do a deep data analysis of their donors, their website, their email file, their value proposition assessment. It's about a 12-week assessment. And at the end of it, one of the things we're looking for is what do they have that they could offer their subscribers that would make people want to give their email address? Well, one of the analyses we like to do is we look at the landing pages or what people are searching for to find them. And so to do this, we use Google Analytics. For many people, if you click on this bottom lower left search console under the acquisition in your Google Analytics, you'll see this, which is basically saying it's not enabled. Google has a free tool that they call Search Console. For privacy reasons, they often hide what search terms you can see. They don't show you exactly what person A was searching for to find you. But with Search Console, they can show you what you're showing up for. They can show you the kind of content that people are searching for that eventually lead them to find you. It's kind of a reverse way to get into it. So we had set this up with them. And when we got into it, this is a picture of what the Google Search Console, again, free tool. All you have to do is go do a Google search for Google Search Console and you can set it up. You just have to prove you own it by having access to your Google Analytics account. Well, on this, we're able to discover exactly what people are searching for that we're being found for. I could have clicked the pages and know what pages do that then link to on my website. And so what we did is we took the top 100 search terms and we categorized them. We said they're either brand, so people searching for oblates or their founder at the time, not the founder, or their the leader at the time, or they're high value. What we'd call high value are search terms that you will want to be found for. They're basically people searching for something you have an answer to. In this case, Novena's different ways of doing prayers is something that they have a specific answer to and it meets their target audience. Then you get like long tail. So prayer requests, yes, they have the ability to answer prayer requests, but they're not looking necessarily just for them, and that opens denominations. It's a lot harder to convert long tail. So when we bucketed the oblates, what we found out with them, 7 out of the 8 of their visitors were looking specifically for them. That's not unusual. Some sites get more heavy brand traffic, some get more heavy high value traffic, but we then flipped it around and said, okay, 7 out of 8 are looking for you. We have something that meets their needs, donation page and the rest of the website. What about the other 1 out of 8? What are the high value looking at? And so for those, we dug in even further and we said, okay, what are the actual terms that they're looking for that would drive them to the site? And what we found was when we looked at it, they have what's called a novena. It's a 9-day prayer that people take part in, that it was getting in the upper 5-figure visitors coming to this page. And actually, when we looked and we did some searching, we found they were the top resource for this for most of the internet. So while it's kind of niche, it's also something they can meet a specific need, and there's a high enough volume of traffic that it's obviously appealing enough that nearly 100,000 people are looking for it and finding them. But when we look at their site, this is where you start to peel back the layers of the onion. We look at their site, and all the novenas are right there available on the site, which is good. You want to offer the content. That's why they were getting found. But the problem was there was no way for me to give my email address. And a novena is a 9-day thing. It requires me to go back to the page every day for 9 days to remember to do that. Whereas if you think about it, if you can make things easier for people, if we can bundle this into a single offer where I just say, here's my email, you send that to me every day, it becomes more valuable. It's taking existing content and making it useful. So over time, we've developed out just a little bit of a longer, what I call funnel in this case, that we promote it. We use their website to promote it. We go to Facebook, we promote it. They drive to this acquisition page. That leads to a thank you page. They then get an immediate ebook, which is basically that page all laid out nicely. You'll see how that gets done. And then also each day over 9 days, we send them another email that has the prayer. Then on the 10th day, it's, by the way, did you enjoy this? We are only able to do this through the support of people like you. Would you give a gift? So it's been a great way to take existing content that we found on their website that we knew was popular, that people had been searching for, and that they had, and that was specific to their ideal target audience. The people that were wanting this were the type of people that would become donors for them. So we've started developing out, every month we launch a new offer on that one. But it's worth pointing out, and I always like to mention this, you should never assume that just because you have something new and shiny, that it's better than what you already have. And so this is often what we'll want to do. Whenever we launch a new offer with an organization, a new ebook, a new petition, whatever the case may be, we want to test it. We want to test it against the original. So give you one example. This is one of our older tests. We were launching the Texas Almanac, 2014 and 15 edition, if that gives you some context. Nathan, were you out of high school in 2014 and 15?
I was.
There you go, okay. Just thought I'd ask. But when we launched this, it had been a wildly popular offer for us, but they had a bunch of resources. This is the Texas State Historical Association. So we decided to test an ebook about the Battle of Alamo, and then another ebook about the Battle of the Goliad. And we said, okay, which of these is going to be more popular if it's more popular? Because I don't want to pay to send traffic if I don't get a higher conversion rate or I don't get more emails. What we ended up finding was the Battle of the Alamo had a 24% increase in email acquisition. The Goliad had 21% decrease in acquisition. So if we just got the Goliad book and just rolled it out, we would have lost 21% of our emails, which would have equated to a 21% decrease in revenue, just because we're getting less people through our process. I always want to test these different things, and I'll actually show you a tool in the end that you can use to test it. Another thing that we always find amazing on this one, we ran this with the Heritage Foundation. We're doing this with what we call our Dear Reader. They offered this in the middle of their blog. It was just a straight up donation ask. Well, we decided to do a test of offering an ebook instead of that. What was amazing, we got an 800% increase in the number of donors acquired by offering an ebook rather than asking for money. It's so counterintuitive. Mm-hmm. But the thing with this is we were providing value before asking for value back. And that ended up getting more people down. And that doesn't even count the tens of thousands of email and subscribers we acquired through the ebook offer instead of their direct donation ask. We wouldn't have known that if we hadn't tested it. In fact, we were very worried about testing it because this one had a high donor conversion rate. Mm-hmm. Or even doing things like we were doing a test of a statement of belief. Sometimes same types of offers, one over the other. We did that same basic test to say, okay, what does this one do? We felt it was getting a little bit stale, 25% increase. We did another one about 2 months later, the similar thing. It was about a 50% decrease. It's always good to be testing these kinds of things. So that's the ebook.
What did you find when you tested your dress code offer against all of our other resources?
You're going to see. We have those results at the end.
Cool.
We have results. Did not do well. Anyway. So back to my crazy work week last week, if you remember this. Now, one thing, if you drill in here, there's some crazy meetings I take part in. One of them on my calendar was the dress code debate.
Is this real?
This is real. Okay. This was on my calendar. You can go check it. Anyway, so I had scheduled a dress code debate with Courtney Gaines in our office. For those that don't know her, Courtney is a fashionista. She's probably the foremost expert on fashion in our office, but she is someone that I get in often debate with on professional clothing, and like she has holes in her jeans, but apparently that's fashionable.
Yeah, I have holes in my jeans.
Yeah, we're a very casual work environment. So I sent her an invite. I said, we're going to have the dress code debate. I didn't actually give her context either.
Okay.
So she showed up with my office saying, what are we talking about? But I told her ahead of time. So this is me and Courtney having our dress code debate. Now the reason we did this is we needed...
Friendly debate.
It was a very friendly debate. This is actually a mock-up of the debate, because I forgot to take a picture. You'll notice I'm wearing the same thing in that picture.
This is what you did like 2 hours
ago.
Yeah,
because I forgot to take a picture of it. So, but here's the thing. Just because we didn't have already produced, we actually have a lot of produced content. I could have used our own content. Sure. That's not near as much fun.
Right.
So I ended up doing a debate with Courtney. She and I sat down for 30 minutes in which we came with prepared debate remarks on, I took the position of I think we should have a more professional work environment, as I'm wearing a vest and a t-shirt. And Courtney took the position of having a more casual work environment. And we both offered, we introduced ourselves, we offered our positions, we did a rebuttal, then I did mine, she offered a rebuttal, and then we summarized it. It turned out Courtney had actually, at a previous job, she was paid to debate. I didn't know this in a podcast. I lost pretty handedly on that one. But, so we did our debate. We recorded this audio. You see there in the middle, I had an iPad of the video, the picture of my mock-up debate here. We recorded the video. I got 30 minutes of audio. So we said my goal on this was that we would record our this ebook and get it created in under an hour. Okay. At this point, we're 30 minutes in, because we spent 30 minutes having this discussion, back and forth debate, which then leads to the next hack. We call this Rev. It's rev.com. It sounds so counterintuitive, but the hardest thing for me is sitting down and typing out the words on the page. But if I can have a dialogue, much like we're doing with the webinar right now, I can get that recorded and then transcribed. Cool thing, there's these auto transcription, but it's riddled with errors. Right. Rev is a site that we use that allows us to upload an audio and then it will allow us then to have it sent off to a real human, transcribed, and then sent back to us. And it's about, call it a 5-minute process that I didn't want time stamping, I didn't want them to rush the order, I actually did this in enough time. So what we then get back is this transcription that's picture, like word perfect of the conversation. It doesn't have ums and ahs, but it has like, if I say something and then have to repeat myself and do it differently, they don't clean that up. But it's enough that I get a 10-page document back of our audio transcription. Yeah, there's some good stuff on there. There's some good stuff on there. It's not a humble brag. She's accurate. She's accurate. So I now have a audio book. I have a Word document of our conversation. I then took and quickly cleaned it up to get rid of the random things. There was like us having dialogue that didn't make sense in an ebook. Added headlines. I dropped our picture in there. So sum total, taking the transcription, uploading it to Rev, having them transcribe it and get it back to me, and then me going through and editing it was about an additional 20 minutes.
Okay. That's your time invested.
That's my time invested because again, it's 20 minutes, but it's also $30 to have someone else transcribe it. Since it saved me the hour it would have taken me to transcribe it, or probably longer, man, I'm not a fast typer. So $30 so far, 50 minutes, but I said I was gonna do it in under 60. So now we gotta turn this actually into an ebook. That's when the next service comes in here, Fiverr, 2 R's, not a typo, it's actually Fiverr. So again, by the way, these little statements on here, to get designs done on the cheap, that is my slogan, that is not their slogan. I feel like I need it, yeah, but that's, so, but you go to Fiverr and the concept behind it is you can get services done for $5 in that kind of premise. So I went to Fiverr and I did a search for ebook cover. And then with ebook cover, you can see here, I think there was like 6,000 different people that would have made an ebook for me. So what I did is I clicked on one of them. I just picked a random one. I didn't use a regular guy just because I didn't want to overload them. And so then I filled out some information. So they say, yes, I want this. I actually paid up for this one. I bought a $10 instead of a $5 because I don't know. I liked his cover art. Yeah, big spender. And then you have to give like, what's the title of it? What's the subtitle? NextAfter, and then like give us a little information on this one. So this one was, this is intended to be a joke we're using on a webinar. Gives them some good context. We go through, we've started the process, so $12.50 because they added in the $2.50 processing fees. They ask what they always get you, but that's what I get back. Took some back and forth. Not a bad ebook cover, right? And they actually, you'll notice, Courtney was wearing literally during the debate that exact outfit. Totally random that it worked out that way. I was not wearing a tie because we ended up having to record this after I flew back. So I was in a wildly casual hot dog t-shirt. Anyway.
Peter's hot dog.
Yeah. So that got me my cover. Now I needed the interior because if I'm going to offer someone an ebook, PDF ebook, I want the inside to look as good as the outside. The marketing that helps sell it, which is great. Searched ebook interior, found another $5 gig, and this is what I ended up getting back. Not bad, not to our usual quality. Like, yeah, we do a lot of these different ebook things. And again, it's definitely not to the quality of our research and that kind of thing, but for, what is it now? Less than an hour. That took about 5 minutes to order that kind of book. $12.50 for the layout, $12.50, so now $54 in total costs and less than an hour to get my ebook designed.
Wow.
This is a way that you can hack that offer context. If you have a recording of the founder giving a presentation, that would not only give you the audio, but then they're probably going to have their individual slides that would give you some images you can include throughout the process. Or if you need to in something like this, you can have an expert record a call with donors, have that transcribed and then turned into an ebook. These kind of content offers can be easily developed, but find the thing that makes you the expert. That's the thing that only your organization would be able to answer, and the thing that people are looking for, but then that you would be uniquely suited to answer. So we got our offer. We're good on that. We're just going to switch to this because it's not flipping now. And so now we got our book. Now it's time to produce the rest of this. So I have an ebook. I'm ready to go. This is where we get into some of our other tools we use. Next one is a tool called Unbounce. Unbounce, again, I feel like I'm trying to sell other people's software. I'm not. We like this one because A, this is the volume of integrations that they currently have. I love it that it automatically connects to any different of these different email systems, analytics systems, can send the data to it directly. But more than that, I like it because it takes the developer out of the process.
I like that too,
yeah.
because you're my developer.
Yeah, I know.
I've seen your calendar.
Yeah, as you saw how easy it is to get on my calendar. Although I have things like dress code today that's taken up an hour. So what we ended up doing with this one though, just for context, our consultancy has around 30 different nonprofits we work with, large nonprofits, that are being served by one developer and myself. And even calling me a developer is pretty hard these days because I don't do that as much anymore. And the only way we're able to do that is we put tools in place that allow individual marketers to make these pages. You can make a design look however you want, be flowed however you want, and then produce and do all these different things without actual coding, which is amazing to me. And so we use this Unbounce page. What we ended up doing on this is I made a duplicate of an old page. And everything about this, you can do A/B testing in this, which is awesome, but everything's drag and drop. Here's a page, I upload my logo and I drag it over and I can stretch it and shrink it as much as I want. I can edit it and then end up changing the headline to be whatever I want it to be. So I ended up using Unbounce to produce a landing page. Similar to the landing page you used to promote the webinar,
Sure.
I decided I want to promote it myself. This is the thing you found.
Yeah.
Because you were looking in our account.
But I did. I read halfway down the page until the little middle line there. I saw my picture and then I stopped because I wanted to be surprised. And I have been so far.
Okay, good. And so what you're going to see as we go through here, there's different things. Like we used a compelling headline, get 3 amazing opportunities for the price of 1 form submission. And then I get into there of how we're going to be producing the latest ebook from NextAfter. We'll learn how it's made, which is what we just shot. Yeah. And you'll get to help with a practical joke all at the same time. And that's not even done yet. There's still more to come.
Great.
So they get a lot. We include, I ended up taking my iPad and jotting down some notes. I uploaded those as an image. So there's handwritten my own signature of this is me, I'm Kevin. And then this is Nathan, he doesn't know I'm doing this. Additional incentives were added. And then what I even did here, and we'll get back to this, we asked for phone number on the phone, which is usually something, whenever you ask for a phone number, you're going to lose half the world because they're introverts. And the biggest fear an introvert has is that if I give you my phone number, you might actually call me. As an introvert myself, it's a terrifying thing to worry about someone calling you. I never give it out. But I provided a reason to give that. And we'll zoom in on it. I don't want to sit here. But what's funny is you're going to notice this looks eerily similar to some of the templates that we've created in the past of we don't like to say best practices, but we've done enough experiments that we have a good starting point. Here's something, and it has these different things, logo in the top left, a headline that states the offer, additional incentives. You'll see this throughout. So we got our email acquisition page. We're good to go on that. I mentioned before, we're not going to ask for money, so I just used our thank you page. Cool. Made it a little bit easier. So next thing we got to do is promote it.
Recoup your $60 investment.
I see, 54.50, yeah. I did not. That would have been great. If anybody wants to send that to us, don't. Give it to a nonprofit. So now we got to promote it because, again, I didn't want to take control of our email file. I felt like that might be overstepping my bounds and roles because I know there's other things we send out. Sure. So I had to find a way to drive people to my landing page. So here's what I ended up doing. This is where we jump to our next tool, Google Optimize. So what I love about Google Optimize is that big thing in the top. It's free. Google Optimize is a way that allows you to use your existing website to run A/B experiments. That's why it was originally started. It is installed with a little snippet of code. You're going to notice here there's different types of A/B experiments, but one of the more recent features they added on there is something we use pretty heavily these days based upon the different types of systems we have to work within. It's called a personalization. In this case, Google Optimize comes on top of your existing website, landing page platform, donation page platform, and can make changes that you might not otherwise be able to make within the system itself. So to give you an example, here's our homepage. I set up a webinar hack, is what I called it, in Google Optimize. And what this allows you to do is on your homepage, you can insert your own ad. Something like right here.
Clearly, I haven't been on our homepage enough.
No, even if you had been on your homepage. We'll come back to that. Don't worry about that. All right. So I set this up. I'm able to define where I want it. I get in there. And then it's the type of thing where I can click on a headline and click edit text and then change the text to be whatever I want. I can click on something and click delete and it will remove it from the page. So think about this in terms of your donation page. Most marketers or fundraisers don't have actual access to change a lot of the elements on the donation page. If I wanted to run a test and say, I want to get rid of the navigation, that would take a developer. Anytime you have to use a developer, it's incremental cost and it's incremental time if it can be done. Google Optimize is a way that you can, quote, hack a donation page. you can make it in such a way that you can then remove any elements that you don't want on there. This has been a godsend for a lot of the different clients we work with, because some of these systems end up being so locked down, and for good reason. They want to prevent errors from happening, but it doesn't allow you to try the more innovative things. It doesn't allow you to say, change the mobile styling so it looks different for someone than desktop, but the motivations are different for donors that way.
Right.
So this has become huge. The cool thing about this is it lets you match it on, like you can target individual pages, just a donation page. You could target the whole website if you wanted to. You also have the ability to exclude the people that are able to see it. In this case, people that are in Plano, Frisco, Louisville, and the Colony.
Great, give my
I wanted to make sure that you, if you were at home, you wouldn't see it. So Nathan had no ability to see the homepage. In fact, I was talking to Brady, who you work with, and he up in Canada, and he goes, "There's no way Nathan hasn't seen the homepage." I was like, "Nathan can't see the homepage." So and this is not to be deceptive, but oftentimes we'll just exclude the where the organization is located if the test we're running is going to cause more questions than we want to answer at the time.
Yeah.
And so this is one way you can actually exclude who doesn't see it. You could target it just to mobile. You could say just new visitors are going to see this. You'll be able to be very selective in the tests you're running or the changes you're making to the page. It's really cool. I will warn you on this one. This is, of all the things I'm showing today, this is the most technical. Only on the initial setup, because if you can install Google Analytics on your form, this is a Google Analytics snippet that you would put on like a donation page or a landing page or your home page. It's a quick update. You see it's in there in red where it says Optimize ID right here. Well, that's the more technical aspect, but if you can get that across, once you have it installed one time, it's there forever. Or if you're using the more modern like Google Tag Manager, another free tool we actually recommend you use instead of just directly installing, it has a one-click button that with just, 2 clicks, you click that, you say this is my ID, it'll insert it automatically for you. And so that's a way to save time, makes it a little bit easier, but again, that's of everything I'm showing, it's the most technical aspect, but it's not insurmountable. And most landing pages, most donation page platforms have that ability to add Google Analytics, so this is just a matter of adding that onto it with it. So that's one promotion. I advertised on our homepage, but I wanted to not just do our homepage, I wanted to do our whole site. However, I didn't want to go through and make changes to all of our site because you saw my calendar.
Yep.
It was not fun. That's going to go back to number 4, which is Unbounce. Unbounce has another section. We looked at how to make pages. Unbounce also has the ability to make pop-ups and sticky bars. So with a pop-up and sticky bar, I can advertise and do an advertisement on a lot of different options. I can advertise on the whole site, individual pages. Similar to it, the user interface is identical to when I make landing pages, so I can just drag and drop whether it's text, images, videos, buttons, all these different things. You like my button copy there?
I do, it's really
It's a secret, yeah. I got a lot of clicks.
I bet you
I got a lot of clicks on this. So same basic purpose, same functionality. And it gives you similar kind of targeting options as we got with Google Optimize, and that again, you can hide it from individual people and locations. I could have targeted to just new visitors. I can make it show up just the first time. I can make it show up only in subsequent times. In this case, I made it wait 5 seconds and then do a pop-up with a footer sticky bar at the bottom. So really cool. Some result of all these efforts. Now keep in mind, I did not have your social media advertising budget, and I did not have your email file, is that we're equal. Technically, you beat me in conversion rate. And I show this to you now because I realized I probably didn't set it up in the workflows, that we probably need the people that signed up on my webinar, we should tell them that we should have done that. Yeah, we should have probably told them about that. So now, that all said, Nathan did technically beat me with that conversion rate, so kudos to you.
Yeah, your custom time period there is also missing a few days of promotion, so that might, you may have potentially made even these numbers.
No, that's when I launched mine. I wanted it equal.
Okay.
I wanted it equal. Yeah, that's how tests work, Nathan. Anyway, that leads me to the 6th hack, which if you remember on that landing page, down here at the bottom, there's a little note, handwritten note. Please give your cell number. I'm going to demo a cool technology for those that do. So we've done a lot of testing with this recently. The technology I'm talking about right now is called slide broadcast. I think I've mentioned this in past webinars.
Probably.
I love this technology because what it does, they call it ringless voicemails. It's not an auto dialer that if somebody picks up, they're going to hear a robot talking to them. What this does is shows up as a missed phone call and goes immediately into their voicemail. And it's super simple to set up. I did it before I came in here to give this. So you name it, I give it the caller ID, so it came from my cell phone. I then have to choose my recording. I ended up calling in via my phone to Slide Broadcast, recording a voicemail. Then you add your recipient, so I uploaded the 400 people that gave us their phone numbers, and then I scheduled the send time. And so actually, everyone on this webinar that had given us a phone number in the past got a phone call. What time are we at now? They would have gotten a phone call about 15 minutes ago.
Nice.
From me saying hi. And so the reason we do this, though, and we've done some recent experiments to deal with this, that a lot of times organizations are worried about over-contacting. They don't want to bother their donors. But the problem that we're running into is what ends up happening is the donors feel forgotten about. We did an experiment with one organization where we added in additional cultivation emails. This is just an email type of thing. But by adding in a 6-month, once a week, where all we did is say, hey, thanks for what you do. By the way, here's an article you should read. Here's a blog post you'd find fascinating. Here's a news article that we were mentioned in. Just loving on them. At the end of it, what we found was there was a 54% increase for these people to click on an email, to do something with the organization, and a 42% increase in the revenue. We did not ask them for more money. All we did is thank them more often. So you think of a Slide Broadcast, we've done the same thing, same test with this. By making a phone call ahead of an ask, ahead of the solicitation, and all you're doing is saying thank you. You will increase the likelihood to give because you're now top of mind and you've communicated back impact that they have on it. So the end premise on all this is it doesn't have to be hard though. Because again, I was able to set up, record a phone call, get it in there. It was a less than 10-minute process to send out a thank you. And in this case, just a hello to 400 people. I'm curious what the deliverability is. We'll have to check the rates on that. Yeah, and I'd love to see it if you're in the different chat, as I mentioned on the phone call. Give us a hello so we know that we got it. That way I know it works. So, reiterate, Google Analytics, using that to find the unexpected content you didn't know was popular or you might find to be popular. Rev did that audio transcription, a way of taking just audio content and getting into written word to make ebooks. Fiverr for inexpensive design, or they have a lot of different services out there that they can help with actually, depending on what you're looking for. Unbounce for landing page creations. Now, I will say, if you have your own system, it's not Unbounce over another system. If it's you just don't have the ability to make an email acquisition landing page, or you are very restricted in your ability to do that, that's a great service. Optimize, free, that lets you do changes to your own site as well as changes to the platforms you're on. You can run A/B tests. It's a great, powerful tool after a little initial setup. Finally, that Slide Broadcast to do the cultivation. So, with that being said, the other thing I want to make sure we included in this, because I showcased all the different kind of hacks that we do in our process, I thought it'd be interesting that other people see that we eat our own dog food in all these recommendations. A part of that is we really try to build into our marketing our own optimization, our own tests. So with that, Nathan has recently published some experiments for this actual webinar today. You published the experiments, right? Mm-hmm. And so I thought it'd be interesting if Nathan walked through his webinar recent experiments and talk to you what they all mean.
I'll have to see which version you have in here. But this is kind of an interesting experiment. Actually, I'll share the inspiration for it. Eddie, who runs our advertising, primarily Google Ads, but a bunch of different things, he has shared with me this idea of like, hey, if you're trying to promote, one of the research studies you're trying to share, like one thing I see is people using these video ads of people like flipping through an actual book and showing that, hey, it's a real thing, which kind of got my wheels turning. I was like, well, I see all these types of video ads for different courses and trainings out there on Facebook of people talking like direct to the camera, and oftentimes they really drive me crazy because they feel really inauthentic and they drive me nuts. But I was like, well, maybe there's something to it. Maybe they could be effective. So I put it to the test in this case. So version A, which you see on your screen, is just a static image. This is pretty similar to an ad we run for most of these webinars. It's kind of like the title image with some descriptive copy. By the way, we have tested into this long form copy on a Facebook ad. People actually do read the copy in an ad. Go figure. And then version B is me standing here in our webinar studio and just kind of giving some insight into what you, the viewer, can expect on the webinar. That's really the whole test. All the copy is the same and everything else is the same. It's really just the media there. And the difference is a 137% increase in people signing up for this webinar. This was particularly with one specific audience, so we're actually testing this in different audiences that we're targeting to try to test, what's the impact on different segments, are there different motivations? So there's a lot of layers of complexity But all in all, you see, we're trying to put this stuff to the test for ourselves too. And ultimately to help reach more of you, because we believe that this can actually be really helpful. Here's another example. On the actual landing page, this is version A, this is the normal page. 50% of you likely saw this page.
Or my page.
Or Kevin's page. So that may change things a little bit.
I might have skewed your stats on this.
That's quite possible. But the result is interesting. So basically, what a lot of you have told me when you respond to the emails that I send you, you say, hey, you've registered, hey, this webinar's coming up, is having questions about, well, what time is this actually at? And it's hard because we're all kind of in different time zones. We're in Central Time, many of you are in Eastern Time or Pacific Time or Mountain Time. And so there's a lot of confusion sometimes about, well, when exactly is this thing? And despite our best efforts to try to put it in every single piece of communication, there's still some confusion. So took a step back and said, well, how can we address this? Well, what if we change the page template to look a little bit more like this, where we can even just insert this bar that's going across to clarify the date and the time, just a little bit more on the page itself. So that's really the only difference. The column widened a little bit. There's a few little design things just to make the layout a bit nicer. And all in all, 2% increase in emails acquired. But primarily what we were looking for is to not make it a negative. We wanted to add this element to increase clarity, and in the hopes that it didn't create more of a distraction on the page. So even though basically there was no change in people signing up, we were able to add more clarity, which was our primary goal in this experiment. So even just a little lesson there, it's super important when you make a change to make sure that you have a clear hypothesis as to, I'm making this change to do X, Y, or Z, here's how I'm going to measure it, and set out with a particular goal. Because then you can measure against it and determine your success that way.
Well, and even to that point, it's always good to remind people, like, we always showcase our big green arrows, sometimes our big red arrows going down. Not every test works. What we actually found is like 42% of our tests that we run in the first year, I remember doing this analysis, 42% of our tests that we run with organizations in the first year do not validate. It's because sometimes, as much as you think a change is important, your visitors might tell you otherwise.
Yeah.
So running a test to know that adding clarity while not hurting conversion rate, that's a win.
Yeah, I think I logged 4 or 5 experiments just today, and I believe only 2 of them were like statistically like confident, 95% level of confidence. But I also learned something from every single experiment, which is just going to lead to new ideas and new hypotheses down the road.
So, well, great.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Kevin. Appreciate you sharing all these things with us. We will do a Q&A here in just a minute, and you'll be able to ask myself and Kevin any deeper questions that you have. Thank you so much.